It's time, Fort Wayne. Your sports, your station. It's the Sports Rush with Brett Rump.
Max Landis.
Covering all the topics that hit a nerve here in the Summit City.
Clark, 11 yards, touchdown.
Only on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Now here's your host, Brett Rump.
The greatest, most interesting, most important person of all time.
You are incredible! Older than one. Yeah, well, you're half right. What is this, amateur hour?
This is going to be huge.
I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Just when I think you've said the stupidest thing ever, you keep talking.
I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard.
That boy ain't right.
The simplest way to put it, I have problems.
Welcome to the alleged show.
Y'all ready for this?
Thank God it's...
Here we go. A snowy Friday, taking you home and finishing up your work week and hopefully keeping you safe on the roads. It is the Sports Rush, your daily local sports fix, 4 to 6. I am Brett Rump along with Adam Lundy, and we've got you connected on the Parkview Sports Medicine text line at 260-447-8500. Oh, it is a little bit testy out there on the roads right now. It's coming down faster than they can plow it, and so it is leaving a little bit of a coating on the roads. There are some slick intersections, a little bit of a white knuckler on my way into work today. So please be careful if you're going to be heading out of the office or hitting the roads. Play it safe. Make sure there's plenty of braking distance. Make sure that you don't drive carelessly. We want to make sure you get home safely and enjoy your sports weekend because there's a lot of good sports this weekend with the start of the NFL playoffs. You've got, of course, the college football playoffs tonight and a big one with Ohio State, Texas.
Yeah.
And obviously this game was figured to be the better of the two, at least in the minds of ESPN, because they put their number one broadcast team on this game tonight with Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler. So big one tonight. And so looking forward to that. And, of course, we've got high school basketball tonight. We've got college basketball tomorrow. And we'll keep you up to date, too, if we hear any announcements. By the way, if you do want to report anything, let us know. You can text us at 260-447-8500 if you do know of a game that might be postponed or canceled tonight. Because we do know there's a couple already that have been reported.
Yeah, I can give those to you right now, Brett. On the girls' side, the Fairfield East Side game is postponed until tomorrow. And the boys' Fairfield East Side game also postponed. It was a doubleheader. I can tell you that has been rescheduled till 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. It'll be JV, followed by girls varsity, then boys varsity. One other game that has been postponed tonight is in the boys NE8. Huntington North taking on East Noble tonight has also been postponed. No word on a makeup time for that one yet.
You know, and it's tough because you figure, okay, it's 4 o'clock. These games are going to start at 6. So most of the schools, depending on how far they've got to travel, are probably getting ready to get on buses within the next half hour or so. And so you're trying to decide, okay, how bad is it right now and how bad is it going to be? Because we don't want to be sending a bunch of people onto really bad roads at 9 o'clock, 9:15 tonight. And that's the big question.
I can tell you another one that just came across the desk here. New Haven girls varsity and New Haven girls JV are both canceled for tonight.
Who were they playing?
It is DeKalb.
Okay, so that's a conference game.
Yep.
And probably that same thought process. Okay, you look outside right here. Now, I don't know if it's this way throughout the entire city because we're well south of the downtown area. We're south of the old Southtown Mall. But I can tell you this. It is coming down really hard.
My goodness. This looks like powdered sugar
it looks like
shaking out.
It looks like one of those snow globes that somebody's shaking it up and it's just nothing but white flakes. That's all you see. I mean, it is really coming down right now. And it's expected to kind of do this for the next few hours.
Yeah, so, I was seeing until 7, maybe 8. So
yeah. I mean, I would say at least until in my mind, it's going to be at least until the games end tonight. So I don't know how well the street departments are going to be able to keep up with the roads or what kind of conditions we're going to have after the games. But if you are going out, be careful. But also, there may be some people using this as the excuse to not go to the game. I just can't get out on these roads, and they'll stay home, watch Ohio State, Texas tonight.
Fair enough. I mean, I know all the Notre Dame fans will definitely be tuned in. They're going to want to see who they're going to be playing in the national championship down in Atlanta. That was quite the game last night against Penn State, my friend.
Oh, my goodness. What a game. And, it kind of stinks having it on a Thursday night, I got to be honest, because then I got a little adrenaline, pumping. And then you want to hear the post-game comments. Next thing you know, I look at my clock, and it's like 12:20 a.m.
Got to get to bed.
Got to get to bed. Got another big day today, another big day tomorrow. But last night, Notre Dame ends up getting a game-winning field goal, 41-yard field goal that is knocked through with 7 seconds left. And the Notre Dame Fighting Irish get the 27-24 win. Of course, you probably know that by now. But I'll tell you this. Those three, they may officially be considered the game-winning points because the game was tied when he kicked the 41-yard field goal. There's only 7 seconds left in the game. But let me just tell you, the 3 points that Notre Dame scored last night to win that game in the national semifinal, they owe a lot of credit to Steve Angeli because you had Riley Leonard knocked out of the game going through concussion protocol. They were giving him all the tests to determine if he was going to be able to play. But during that testing, he had to come out of the game. In fact, the officials took him out of the game. And all Steve Angeli did was move the team down the field to get them into position to kick field goals. So the first possession of the second half, Notre Dame could go down the field and tie it because they were within one possession. That, to me, was perhaps the difference in the entire game. Was the Steve Angeli drive late in the first half because Notre Dame's offense was struggling to have any kind of consistency and maintain any kind of drive in that first half. All of a sudden, because of a injury, kind of a fluke situation, it wasn't like they replaced Riley Leonard because of ineffectiveness, but he had not been all that effective. And I think he'd thrown an interception at that point. It was not the best we'd seen of Riley Leonard in that first half. And so Angeli has to come in. And this is a lesson for everybody who is a backup. Okay? You never know. Don't give up the preparation. Always prepare as if you're going to be a starter or you're going to be playing first team reps. Always prepare because you never know when that moment could have the same type of magnitude and importance that Steve Angeli faced because he came in, led his team on and it was only a field goal, but the difference between 10-0 at halftime and going to the locker room without even a point on the scoreboard versus 10-3 being within a score and knowing you get the football first in the second half, huge psychological difference, no question. And so, the last field goal was kind of handed to Notre Dame. To be quite honest, they had to make one play on like a 3rd and 2 to be able to move the chains and make it a little easier field goal. It would have been like a 50-some yarder, but so they, it wasn't like they had to drive from their own 20 and get in the field goal range. They didn't have that because Penn State threw the interception. And how bad was Greg McElroy last night?
Yeah,
he was awful. I mean, first of all, right before that drive, McElroy's saying, I think Penn State goes for it here because Aller's a guy that just doesn't throw interceptions, and he's going to make the smart play, and so they'll be willing to take their chances here and try to get into field goal range. And like the very first play, he throws a stupid pass, kind of throwing against the grain, over the middle of the field. It gets intercepted, an inaccurate throw, and a great interception, by the way. Most receivers can't make that catch. You never expect a defensive back to make that kind of diving catch, taking it right off the turf. But great interception. But then the other thing McElroy said, which I thought, this is not the NFL, but McElroy was talking about Notre Dame on that final drive, that Notre Dame would be reminding their players with 30 or 40 seconds left that if you break free and have a clear breakaway to the end zone, go down at the 2 or 3 yard line. And I'm like, man, that is such high risk at college football. How many times have we seen kickers choke a play or a long snapper that chokes or, a
high snapper,
the holder could get shaky fingers. You got so, or you could get a penalty, or there's so many different things that could go wrong. If you're going to tell me, Mr. McElroy, that if Notre Dame had a clear go-ahead touchdown in the last minute of the game that they should have gone to a knee, not taken the touchdown, and played for a game-winning field goal. Now, the strategy may work 80% of the time, but if you've got a clear path, that's 100% guarantee you're up by a touchdown. And then what are you afraid of? You think they're going to go for two and risk the season ending on a failed 2-point try? No, they'll probably go overtime anyway if they happen to score because you gave them 30 or 40 seconds. The other thing is you got to trust your defense. Notre Dame's got a pretty elite defense. And I thought that was just dumb when he said it like twice, like he re-emphasized the point. You know, they're going to want to go down. They're not going to want to take this all the way in because, you know, you don't want to leave any time on the clock if you're going to kick the game-winning field goal. And I'm like, take the touchdown. Why take a field goal? The other thing is there's no guarantee. There's not going to be 15, 20, 25 seconds on the clock when you kick a field goal. And then they only have to get into field goal range, and they got 15, 20 seconds to run a couple of plays, get in field goal range. So I thought that was the stupidest thing. And I'm like, now I know why he's on the second unit as far as the broadcasting teams. But and then the pass interference.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The pass interference that was called. But do you believe that was pass interference? Now, it's a fine line. There's multiple factors here. Did he kind of face guard? Yes. Did he turn and look for the football? No. But the ball was underthrown, and just as the ball was getting there, he did turn his head, if you noticed.
I did.
The first thing he did was when he was running back to him, he put his hands up, and then just as he got to him, he turned. I don't think there was really any contact that justified a flag.
No.
The ball was poorly thrown.
Marginal contact, if anything.
Yeah.
So,
I thought that's one where you keep it in your pocket and you don't call the penalty.
It was also like, what, quadruple coverage? I mean, it was just a really well-covered ball. But.
Yeah, you had the guy trying to get over the top and another guy coming over and then the guy coming on the underneath who ended up intercepting it.
Mm-hmm.
And a great interception.
Oh, it would have been great, yeah.
If that would have stood, plus the interception at the end of the game, Notre Dame, two of the best catches made the entire night were by Notre Dame's secondary.
Yeah, some really quality interceptions.
In fact, that might have even been a linebacker who went back and picked that. But the bottom line is, was it pass interference? Your thoughts, let us know on the Parkview Sports Medicine text line, 260-447-8500.
One thing that I thought was kind of funny but inconsequential in the long scheme of things was the guy running the clock. He kept on letting it run 2 seconds or so past the time of the whistle being blown. And they kept on having to add time back to the clock because
they did do that.
He couldn't hit the button fast enough.
guy that's hard of hearing. Did he blow the? Hey, somebody tell me, did he blow the whistle? Yes, he blew the whistle.
Please add 2 seconds back to the game clock.
Oh, I did it again. I'm sorry.
It was funny. I just got a kick out of that.
You wonder, is that a regular crew? Think about this, because you're playing a game that has no home team.
Mm-hmm.
So are you borrowing a crew? Is it somebody that hasn't done it in 10 years? And
just game clock needed a little work is all.
But anyway, Notre Dame with the big win. They advanced to the national championship game. That game's going to be on January 20th.
Good stuff. Now we get to find out who they're going to play tonight.
Yep, tonight the big one between Ohio State and Texas. We'll talk plenty about that as the show moves forward. Right now we got to catch up with what's happening in the world of sports. Let's check today's top headlines. It's all about the snow, right, Adam? That's all we're going to hear. We're just going to talk snow.
No, we won't talk snow.
We actually have sports.
We will keep you updated on any postponements or cancellations.
Welcome to the Weather Channel.
But we'll do that later. Right now, we're going to let you know about Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson, who underwent surgery today after tearing his right Achilles tendon. Again, the team announced Watson's recovery time and return to play status is uncertain, and he will likely miss significant time during the 2025 season.
Oh, this is good. I saw this today. Spot Track posted this, that if he does not play for Cleveland this upcoming season, and obviously that's very much in doubt, and then is released by Cleveland at the end of the season, which is fully expected, he will have earned $229 million to play 19 games with the Cleveland Browns.
One of the worst contracts.
That's like one season, $229 million.
Hope it was worth it. The Indiana Pacers are taking on the Golden State Warriors tonight at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. However, there are some injury concerns for the Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry and Draymond Green will both be out for the Golden State Warriors, and Trace Jackson Davis, former Indiana Hoosier, is also questionable for tonight's game with a eye contusion. After declaring for the 2025 NFL Draft on December 28th, Georgia quarterback Carson Beck will instead join Miami for his final season of college eligibility. Beck, a 2-year starter for the Bulldogs with a 24-3 career record, will succeed Heisman Trophy finalist Cam Ward in an attempt to lead Miami into the college football playoff after the Hurricanes came up short in 2024. And those are your top stories today, Brett.
Okay, we're going to take a break because we've got Justin Cohn, still of the Journal-Gazette, but not for long. He's announced that he is leaving his position, primarily as beat reporter for the Fort Wayne Komets, which is probably what most people know him for, although he covers plenty of other sports, including our city golf championships and other things. But we're going to talk to him. We can't let him get away without another conversation. So we'll talk to Justin Cohn, find out what's next for Coney, and talk a little bit about the state of the Komets as they hit the road down to Tulsa this weekend. It is the Sports Rush on a snowy Friday on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Glad you're with us on this Friday edition of the Sports Rush, your daily local sports fix 4 to 6. By the way, with the snow, if you're questioning whether or not there will be high school basketball tonight, what have we seen so far? Games at East Noble, at New Haven, at Lakewood Park Christian, and where else?
East Side.
East Side. Those games, we do know, have been postponed and pushed off. A couple of them have been scheduled for tomorrow. But I would suggest checking social media for whatever school you're going to be following or school you'll be going to, and see, because it's a difficult choice because it just started snowing in the last hour or two.
Oh yeah, pretty recently.
And we did have there a squall. That's what they call it, Adam. They call it a squall, and it was squalling big time a little bit ago.
Okay, meteorologist.
I did take meteorology in college. It's kind of a passion of mine.
That says a lot about you, Brett.
All right, let's find out a little bit more about the career of Justin Cohn, because he is joining us, and we have talked to Justin for a while. Primarily Comet hockey, but there's big news on the horizon. And if you don't follow Justin, I don't know what you're doing with your social media life, but you may have missed the big announcement. Justin, welcome to the program. And what's up with you? What's new with you?
I mean, look, I was so excited to talk to you. I just checked out of a meeting with DeMarcus Beasley and Scott Sproats just so I could come on and talk to you, Brett.
Wow. I feel honored. So I don't really know what job you're doing right now. Have you actually started with the new job?
No, I still have, I guess a week and a half with the Journal-Gazette, so I'm still fully on the Comet beat and all that. And then January 20th, I will start my new role as Director of Communications with Fort Wayne FC. And
congratulations on that. I know a lot of Comet fans are going to be disappointed losing the coverage, so what's going to happen there?
I don't know. I know that they certainly care very deeply about the Comet coverage. I know that they have posted my job out there, so hopefully some really good hockey writers apply for that. But I have stayed out of that conversation beyond that, but I can assure you that the Journal-Gazette, of course, cares very deeply about the hockey coverage, and I'm sure they'll find a good person to step into my shoes. Great.
Adam just logged onto the computer as you were saying that. Great. Justin Cohn joining us. And, Justin, with this move, I guess, what will happen with because you do, are you still working with the Flow Hockey on the ECHL podcast stuff?
I do still do Flow Hockey. The plan is to continue with them as their ECHL columnist through this season. So I do still plan to be connected to ECHL hockey and try and keep people informed in that respect. But obviously, I won't be living and breathing at the Coliseum like I used to.
Okay, so they'll still save the suite for you up there in that press box, the Justin Cohn suite, right?
I guess so. I hope so. I hope they're not going to kick me right out of the building, but you never know.
All right, so let's talk about the Komets. I have a tough time keeping up because it seems like, and I don't know if this is something that's more prevalent now or if it's happening because of the type of roster the Komets are assembling, but it just seems like there's a lot of coming and going with players on this roster. Is it just me, or is that kind of fact?
I think it's actually less than usual. It certainly seemed bad lately because they've had such big names called up. I mean, Ethan Keppen was up for a while. Now he's back, but they still don't have Yannick Turcotte. They still don't have Connor Corcoran and Tyler Inamoto. But in a general sense, I actually think the movement up and down has been less this year than the last couple of years. But they felt it deeply because when you lose, first or second line players. And then you get in a rut like they are right now where they haven't had a lot of offense during this 4-game losing streak. It's certainly, I think you feel it more. But, it's also that time of year. Every team in this league right now having a lot of transactions. There's a lot of call-ups. You get into the injuries this time of year. You get illnesses. You get a lot of call-ups to the NHL, and it trickles down. So a lot of various reasons for it, but I tell you, if you think it's bad in Fort Wayne, go just look at a team like the Idaho Steelheads. I mean, every day, just a mountain of transactions. So in some respects, Fort Wayne's been kind of fortunate.
You know me, Justin. I've been checking the Steelheads roster daily, just trying to keep up. I gotta ask about the Komets because they've had serious swings back and forth, and I don't know exactly what's behind that. So I thought, let's get to the guy who's the source. He can clear it up for me. How can they go from being maybe the hottest or one of the hottest teams in the league to all of a sudden just struggling, including a loss on New Year's Eve?
That's a great question, and if I had the answer, I guess I could take Jesse Calick's job. I think the biggest thing I got is just focus. They're not as good in the first period and the second period as they are in the third period. So, I spoke to Jack Dugan about this the other day, and he just talked a lot about, whatever you are, whatever player you are, however you got to do it to make sure that you are up for the first drop of the puck. That's what you got to do, and to make sure you're not giving up that first goal or playing from behind. I don't think anybody doubts that there's a ton of talent on that team, but it's just a little bit of a lack of consistency. Now, the one thing I will say that would be the kind of I wouldn't panic right now is the problem lately has been offense. And I just find it hard to believe that will keep up. There's just too much talent for them to not be scoring more than 1.75 goals per game, which is what they've done over the last 4. The other thing, though, is they've been playing a lot in the division. And when you're playing that many games, you're playing the same team 3 out of 4 games, or, what was it they did with Indianapolis? I think it was 4 out of 5. Mm-hmm. There's just no secrets, and maybe you can say that's on the coaches. They need to adjust better, but, there's just no secrets. Teams get to know you so well that they come up with some tricks to shut down certain facets of your game, and I think they were struggling a little bit with that, and that's why I think it's good that they're out on the road playing unfamiliar opponents in Tulsa and Wichita. Those are teams that have not seen them. Fort Wayne's been very good on the road. Mm-hmm. They've been good outside of the division, so I think there's an element of that. But right now, to boil it down, it's just an offensive slump.
You've been a pretty good evaluator of rosters. What's the ceiling for this roster as it's assembled right now? Is it a championship contending roster?
I think it is. I'd like them to maybe get those few guys back from the AHL that we talked about. I think there's going to be at least one big signing coming in the next couple weeks if they can get it through. But yeah, the roster as it is a very good roster. You need the goaltending to hold up, but Connor Unger has really improved his game over the last month. So I'm certainly less concerned with that than I was at the beginning of the season. I think Jesse's a good coach. I don't look at it like there's a ton of weaknesses, but it's a matter of consistency. Toledo is got a hefty lead in the division right now. I don't think they're as good as they were last year. So I think if Fort Wayne can sort of put it together a little bit more and get the chemistry going again, then I do view it as a team that can make some noise in the playoffs, yes.
I think it's interesting with hockey, and one issue, and I know every year it's a different chemistry in the locker room with the Komets. And I think one of the factors of that is it's an organization where you have a lot of young players that are moving up. You've got players that have been up that have come back down. And so there's a lot of dynamics going on as far as players that think they could make it back to the next level. Players want to prove themselves worthy of next level. But yet, we as Komet fans want to see this team play well. What have you seen as far as chemistry? Is this a good locker room in your mind?
This is the best locker room in terms of leadership and rapport than they've had probably since the championship year. These guys get it. They get along really well. They say the right things. I don't hear anything about there being cliques in the locker room. And the last couple of years, I mean, if you talk to anybody that was here last season and you ask them to compare it to this season, they almost always just go to last year there were guys that maybe they didn't want to be here or their heads weren't right or they weren't playing for the team. I haven't heard any of that negativity this year. And I think that's because they had a lot more time to put this roster together and think it through, who's going to be the leader, who are going to be the alphas. And I just think it's working a lot better. I know it's hard to say that right now because they've lost 4 in a row. But, to your question, I think this team has a lot better chemistry, a lot better leadership. I think it's very intentional that they haven't named a captain, that they've been just kind of rotating alternates. And so I'm not worried about that sort of cliquishness that we saw the last couple seasons.
Justin Cohn, who is going to be making the jump from the Journal-Gazette covering the Komets beat over to Fort Wayne FC. So I don't know if it's too early to ask the question, when will we find out about a jump to a higher level for Fort Wayne FC?
Well, I think that there are some very big announcements coming up, and I think I would just leave it at that. But, there are certainly a lot of things that we are talking about even today, just about how are we going to move forward with how we announce this and how we announce that. But right now, the biggest thing I would just kind of drum home is that we're staffing up. We're staffing up with really good people, and there's a lot of exciting things coming in the months ahead.
Sounds great. Justin, best of luck to you in your new job. And since you're not going far, I'm sure we'll cross paths plenty with Fort Wayne FC, and always appreciate you being willing to give us time here on the Sports Rush.
All right. I appreciate it.
Yep, that's Justin Cohn joining us here on a Friday edition of the Sports Rush. I don't know. Did he tip anything there? Did we?
I'm getting excited.
We did not get a denial.
No, there's no denial, and he did say big announcement coming soon. So.
Yeah.
Just letting you know, this just came across the desk. Girls Northeast State action. Leo at Norwell has been canceled for tonight.
And it's always weird. Do we call it a cancellation or do we call it a postponement? Because all of these conference games are going to have to be played at some point.
Right. As of now.
But I think if they don't announce it with the rescheduled date,
they just say,
then it's a canceled game for tonight.
Right.
And then they'll announce the rescheduled date later. But what was that at Norwell?
Yes,
Leo
at
Norwell.
Girls.
Okay, so did that take the whole schedule off the board?
No, so we still have Belmont at Columbia City girls tonight in the NE8 should that remain on schedule. Everything in the ACAC is on as of now for the girls. In the girls NECC, everything on except for Fairfield at Eastside, which is postponed till tomorrow afternoon.
And once again, if you'd like to inform us of any of postponements or cancellations, please do so on our Parkview Sports Medicine text line 260-447-8500, and then we'll be able to get that verified before we go on the air with it. But it's 260-447-8500 is the Parkview Sports Medicine text line. Coming up, Chris Ballard spoke to the media. What did he have to say? We're going to tell you. And we'll do that when we come back here on the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Earlier today, Chris Ballard did meet with the media, or did he actually speak directly to me? Sometimes when you've been saying things on your show and then he comes out and he calls out things he's been, quote, hearing that are out there, as he put it. And it's like, it's exactly what I said.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. I mean, I know we've got a lot of listeners on the podcast in Indianapolis and probably have some live listeners, although we don't have the details on that. But our podcast listeners, we always get, 25% or so out of Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah.
Majority are out of Fort Wayne, but Indianapolis is, sometimes 30 to 40% of our total audience is Indianapolis.
Shout out to Indy.
But no, he mentioned one of the things he did mention was that he was sick on Wednesday. He says, I know the stories were out there that I was shying away from the media, which, I somewhat sarcastically brought that up, that is it a coincidence or is it fact that he is sick? I thought maybe it was something where he just wanted to delay it. It was easy to say he was ill because no one was going to question that he was sick except me. But he had a couple of other things he mentioned, and it was weird because every time we brought it up, I kind of thought, I did say that, and but I'm like, I don't think he's listening to Fort Wayne radio, but it was just odd. But he kind of gave us what we probably expected to hear. The thing that I appreciated though is he did seem to be very open and candid. Mm-hmm. About how he failed personally, how some of his philosophies didn't pan out, some of the things he failed at miserably, and he even used some extreme words and adjectives to describe his performance this year. And some of it was the things we've heard from players, because he did spend a bit of time talking about there wasn't enough competition, there wasn't a depth of talent. And he goes, that's totally on me, because we didn't have the guys being challenged on a daily basis, and that kept us from becoming a better football team. And then the other thing he was talking about was he talked about wide receiver and some of the development of guys like A.D. Mitchell and Alec Pierce, what he thought about where they were at. He did admit that they've got to take a step back and really evaluate their own evaluation process, how we're looking at players. We may have to get a different perspective. But he did also say in the same press conference, we really like a lot of the young guys we've got here. And it's like, okay, get away from that. That's where you start to get caught in the trap where you fall in love emotionally with some of the guys you've drafted and you stick with them to a fault, and sometimes you've got to look and say, they're at the bottom half of talent at their position. There are other players out there that could help us upgrade. He talked about free agency and the spending. And one comment he did make that I found interesting was he said, whatever I decide to do, Jim Irsay will back me up. It's not about Jim Irsay and finances. He is willing to do whatever it takes, and he's always supported any decision that I've made, and it's my decision on whether or not we spend the money. And he says we may have to evaluate what level of talent we're spending it on, and we may have to look at free agency a little different this year. But then he also said...
Circled back and did the Chris Ballardisms.
We still have a good group of players here, and we like the group we've got and all this. But they talked about some of the comments by the players. He did have a private conversation, he said. He met with Zaire Franklin, had a discussion. He also, I thought this was interesting, publicly defended Pat McAfee. Chris Ballard came out, said nobody has a better perspective of what a locker room is like and what's happening in the locker room, and has a better intuition as to the real goings on than someone who's a former player and has been there. And that Pat McAfee was a leader. He was an important part of a successful team. He knows the type of locker room we had in the Peyton Manning era, and he saw things through his own unique perspective as a former player that he called out. And he in my mind, he was somewhat supportive and defensive of Pat McAfee. I don't know if he's trying to win him back over so he renews his suite, but That's got to be a pretty expensive suite right down there at field
man.
level. But,
Pricey.
But he did come out publicly, and in some ways he's shaming the players when he's coming out and saying that, and that's why the conversation with Zaire Franklin, he wouldn't go into details. He said, I'll leave the conversation as a private conversation between him and I, but I did have a pretty direct conversation with Zaire Franklin over all of the situation that surrounded him. But anyway, he was asked some of the general questions. It kind of started out with a question, and we'll let you hear his response when they asked him kind of how he felt about things now overall with where things were at.
There's definitely a sense of guilt for not getting it done at this time. And I'm very hard-headed, very stubborn. I am. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not, because I am. And having to really self-evaluate how we build the team and how we move forward is extremely important. As I was all week, as I was sitting sick, feeling sorry for myself, but also self-reflecting on stuff we'll talk about and things we need to do differently. I came to some real truths. I mean, you got to be honest. You got to be able to look the person yourself in the mirror and tell yourself the truth on what's going on and how things are going. That's the only way you can really change and create real change. To our fans, I get it. I understand completely your frustration, and it's warranted. Look, it's a natural consequence when you don't win. It is. And we've got to be able to handle that. I've got to be able to handle that, but organizationally, we've got to be able to handle that. I'm still confident in my abilities. I'm still confident in people I have around me's abilities. Just at this point, we have not gotten it done.
So he's obviously talking about doing things a little differently, and I guess it leads to the next question is based on what your evaluation is of this football team and what needs to improve for next year. What are your thoughts?
So, look, we did not tackle well this year. We didn't. I think we had the most missed tackles in the league. We've got to be a better tackling football team. We do. That's where a lot of the explosive came from when you look at it. A lot of missed tackles. We've got to be a better tackling football team.
Now, when he was asked specifically about the offense and the offensive line, the question about Braden Smith, what is his situation? Of course, Braden Smith missed the last handful of games because of a personal situation, and Chris Ballard said that they're supporting him in that. He's dealing with something that's very personal in nature, and that he would not elaborate and would not speak to anything regarding Braden Smith's situation. They tried to ask if it would involve next year, and he avoided that question. So we don't know what Braden Smith's situation really is. Is it something that could cause him to retire from football, step away from the game? Nobody really knows. I mean, it's just an odd situation to arise during the season. And then he was asked also about Ryan Kelly, and he's got great respect for Ryan Kelly. And he said they're going to continue to have good discussions and dialogue. Feels like Ryan Kelly can still play, but again, there's a lot of guys who have been retired by an organization that probably felt like they could play, and maybe the organization felt like they could play, but it was a crossroads where you have a younger player that might be stepping up that's ready, and you feel like if you put that younger player in, they're going to surpass the older player within the next year or two as far as talent. At what point do you crisscross and say this guy goes, this guy comes in? I think Ryan Kelly should not be re-signed by the Colts, but he was asked about Ryan Kelly. But, also Colts fans every year talk about free agency, talk about, things that Chris Ballard needs to do as far as being aggressive in the draft. And he answered very directly when he was asked, how are you going to do things differently?
Last year, we didn't completely abstain from free agency. And we've actually done things in the past. So I just think we have to be more. We have to do a better job identifying the free agents that we want to sign, and then being able to close the deal on them. And that's up to me. It really is. It's not Mr. Irsay. He'll let me do what I need to do, and my staff. We have to be able to do that.
I don't think he's on point. The question isn't that they don't sign free agents. We know that they've picked up a guy or two that's filled out the roster, but they've not been the names that people want. The people that the Colts need to get is when you can identify one area of weakness, and there's a player that's available in free agency that addresses directly that weakness, whether it's lockdown corner, whether it's a 1A wide receiver. You've got to, that's where you've got to be aggressive. It's not you find a backup corner that's a veteran that might help the young people and could be on the bench as an insurance policy. That's not the free agent that we're talking about. It's not depth at the defensive line, which they've always been good at signing free agents because they'll bring anybody in if you're a defensive lineman. No, that's not what we're talking about as Colts fans.
Yeah, no, I've mentioned at a lot of key positions, it's none of their players are game changers. If you're going to go out and make a trade, you need a player that's going to change the game for the positive for the Colts.
Yep. 260-447-8500, the Parkview Sports Medicine text line, 260-447-8500. Also, one more game has been called in, so we'll slip that in here while we've got it.
Yeah, girls ACAC. Adams Central at Heritage Girls has been postponed for tonight.
And once again, if you do know of anything we've not announced, let us know. What do we have so far?
Yeah, I'll give you the full list of postponements so far. In girls NE8 action, Leo at Norwell has been postponed. New Haven at DeKalb Girls also postponed. Looking at the ACAC girls, Adams Central at Heritage postponed tonight. And moving down to the NECC, Fairfield at Eastside Girls also postponed. That'll be played tomorrow. The boys NECC, that Fairfield at Eastside doubleheader for the boys is also postponed till tomorrow. And in the boys NE8, Huntington North at East Noble has been postponed. That's what I have for you as of now.
So if you now, based on what you were just saying, and I was trying to take notes as you were going.
Yeah.
All SAC games are still on as scheduled, at least as far as what we know.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything SAC related.
Okay, so no one has notified us of any changes in the SAC schedule, and of course we're scheduled to be at Homestead tonight for the Southside Archers and the Homestead Spartans. That game set to tip off somewhere around 7:45, pregame between 7:35 and 7:40, just ahead of tip. And after the game, we'll jump over to the Coventry Pizza Hut. And again, I guess we should say weather permitting.
We'll see. We'll do our best to make it out there. Of course.
But the thing is, we might make it there. But what if, because of weather, what if they close a little earlier? Anything like. So yeah. I'm just saying, this is our plan as of right now.
I got you.
Is that we'll be at the Coventry Pizza Hut after the game up until about 10:30. So. Giving you all the scores, which there'll be a lot fewer of them.
Yeah, it makes my job easier.
Yeah, you won't have as much to do tonight. But that's all coming up tonight right here on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Also, I don't know if you heard about Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. He is once again another ACL tear.
Yeah, I guess you did mention it in your update earlier. He's got actually a ruptured Achilles.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not good either.
No, and apparently he injured it, and they thought it was a partial tear, and I don't know if there's been further damage or what, but they've reevaluated it and determined that was ruptured. It did require surgery, and so even though the injury happened, I think, like back in early November or October, it's been a while ago, he just now is getting the surgery done today. And that could put him on a timetable to miss the entire 2025 season. As I mentioned last half hour, $229 million he will have been paid by the end of the season, and it is possible that he will play 19 games with Cleveland. And in those 19 games, I wonder if they even have a winning record.
I would sincerely doubt it. He never really looked ever good for Cleveland. Ever.
No, not the same quarterback that we saw early in his career down in Houston. 260-447-8500, the Parkview Sports Medicine text line. Plenty coming up next hour. Notre Dame gets the win last night. Woo! What a dramatic start to the semifinals of the college football playoffs. Is Ohio State and Texas going to live up to the hype, or are they going to live up to the drama from last night? What do you expect? Ohio State versus Texas. You know, I looked at some of the scores we had yesterday. Now, I hit Notre Dame's score right on the button. But we also had a texter yesterday that hit Penn State's score right on the button. They took 30-24, Notre Dame.
Yep.
I took 27-20, which is the score I'm sticking with, even though I did say 16, 17, or 20. I said somewhere in that range. But it was 27-24. So if you took his score for Penn State, my score for Notre Dame, and we just combined them, we were right on. That close.
Good job.
Yeah, way to go, listener. Thanks for bailing me out. But now tonight, what do you have? Ohio State, Texas. Who's going to win? What's the score? Offense, defense? What type of game do you expect? Text it to us on the Parkview Sports Medicine text line, 260-447-8500. We roll on with a Friday edition of the Sports Rush. We're taking you home and into your sports weekend on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.